I'll come next to Dr. Toyosi, and you've done a lot of work in Nigeria and in the region on community-based responses. So it'd be great to hear from you that how does AI disinformation exploit education gaps, especially when we talk about the digital divide, where we have so many people who don't have the access or the skills or education to use technology. And then what are scalable interventions that can work beyond your urban elites that are part of these discussions most of the time?
Thank you very much, Usama. I think for me, this is such an important subject matter to interrogate at a conference of this nature. Since I got to Pakistan 2 days ago, it's been such an eye-opener for me to understand that some of the challenges we think that we face in our own parts of the world and our regions are very similar to those that, other people, face in other parts of the world. And, when we talk about artificial intelligence and, that gap in terms of education and, the widening dissimilarities that, we see in how the elites and educated people use and apply, information, education and access to it in comparison to the way that people in rural communities do. I see three things. Number one, it's a media literacy problem. The fact that first we cannot focus on centralizing truth without understanding that truth itself is emotional and is social. Human beings are not, cannot be limited to algorithms. We're emotional beings as human beings. So when we go to social media and see information that favors our candidates during elections, we naturally amplify such information before we start to think about the implication of that information. So we must understand that, when there's very limited exposure to the understanding of algorithms and deepfakes and synthetic, text and information, people are naturally, going to make the wrong decisions. And as a lawyer myself, part of the things that I consistently worry about is, while ignorance is not an excuse under the law, how do you apply legislation in an environment where people are predominantly ignorant about their actions? I take Nigeria for, as an example. There are very highly urban, elite-dominated context environments in Nigeria, and then you have hugely rural, the backwaters of Nigeria. And a lot of people use AI without knowing that they're using AI. A lot of people are compromising their data in public spaces on WhatsApp, on Twitter, on Facebook, and TikTok without even knowing that, they're giving out information that is precarious to them, that people can simply pick and, alter and manipulate to their own detriment. And so it is very, very important for us to think about even the intergenerational disconnect within our educational institutions. So think about the generation that focus on using AI in the world today. They are the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas. And they're the ones who have a lot of time on their hands. They are 25 and below. They have mobile phones, very limited, responsibility. And they're consistently on social media, ready to retweet anything. They're the ones that are consistently recruited as troll farms by politicians to be able to use, AI-generated content or AI-altered content to intimidate and bait opposing figures during elections. And so when you think about the fact that these young people are in huge numbers, and then their lecturers in the universities are struggling with using computers, using Fortran and those old, level software, when this generation are already in Python, R, Kotlin, and all. That's first, some of the issues that we need to identify, interrogate, and tackle immediately. The second is a language divide. In Nigeria, for example, there's 779 local governments, several languages across 36 different states of the country. Now, most of the infrastructure that is used to, that are used to fact check information, an infrastructure that sort of you would describe as digitally safe resources that will help people verify information, are designed and created in global elite language, English language, French language. And I'm asking myself that in my mother's village in Iloro Ekiti, how many people understand English language, even though they are on what our old, mothers describe as WhatsApp? Right? So they're constantly sharing information. In fact, there's a joke about the way our mothers quickly receive information and forward it immediately without even, processing the content of the message. And I know a lot of our, senior citizens can relate with that. So the language divide is a problem. We need to understand that information is consistently shared on social media platforms, in local dialects, in audio, voice notes, in quick formats that do not in any way align with context specific verification systems that we in this room can subject ourselves to. And
I see so many people nodding when you mention the mothers, right?
Because our mothers are informal news sources, if you like, and people depend, well, excluding myself, I'm a young mom, but I'm a Gen Z mom. But you think about this, and I'm asking myself, how do we tackle these issues without pointing fingers, without using the same legislation that is funded by taxpayers' money to begin to prosecute our citizens because we did not provide the right education, the right orientation, and the right, the rightful means of inculcating a sense of responsibility in our citizens. The third thing that I want to talk about is access symmetries. The importance of the fact that a lot of people, before information travels within our rural communities, before it gets to formal sources like news, our mobile phones, which are informal sources, are faster and more efficient than the proper institutional news platforms that we're used to. So before, any major traditional news platform picks up any information to disseminate it, young people on social media have already shared it everywhere. And so you're asking yourself, these emotionally charged opinions travel faster than verification, processes. And so when we talk about artificial intelligence, the portion of it that I'm extremely passionate about is the governance, the ethics, and the policies that surround artificial intelligence, and the importance of ensuring that AI itself is inclusive. Because the way AI in the world is currently designed is that it's for people who have a certain level of understanding. And so you cannot, Usama, institute artificial intelligence within the context of only technologists and policymakers. You need language experts who are able to go into rural communities and do some type of orientation for them. And so you ask me, because my mindset is typically always solution oriented and not just lamenting about the problems. Number one, how are we going to begin to involve verification segments into our radio programs? What are we going to do, and how are we going to begin to make sustainable investment in the training of content creators and local journalists? Because the question again is, in the world we live today, we grew up knowing that journalism was practiced by people that went to school to study journalism and proper professional media reporting. Today, everybody who's carrying a mobile phone is a content creator and a journalist. And so how do you empower local content creators to be able, because you can't stop them.
Absolutely.
You can't stop them. So how do you, exactly. Yeah. So how do you empower local content creators, right, to be able to make sure that they do what is right and maintain professional standards? And finally, how do we begin to think about engaging with telecommunications companies on at least integrating zero-rated fact-checking processes, in their systems? Because these mobile phones are built based on their frameworks, their telecom services. You can't bypass them and share anything on WhatsApp or your mobile phone,
and I think
without a telecom service
responsibility of companies, of businesses, is critical in this stage.